Hey friend, in this video I'm showing you a breakdown of my process of building a color palette from scratch. So if you have ever wanted to try your hand at developing your own style or doing a painting maybe from one of the masters, maybe a Matisse painting or a Van Gogh with your own unique twist of color, or you just want to start painting patterns because you're into surface pattern design and licensing, whatever, and you want to find your color palette, your unique combination of fun colors that fits your vibe, then this video is going to show you an inside peek of what my thought process is for coming up with color palettes. I show you a bunch of different directions that you can go down for building your color palette formula. This is a snippet or snapshot from a few of the lessons inside my course, The Art Within, so consider this a little sneak peek. If you've ever been interested in taking that online course, then check it out. But this will give you a great starting point if you're just starting your practice. So if you're ready, let's dive in. Okay, so for this quick painting, we are doing a color study. That is the main goal. And if we really like what the painting looks like at the outcome, awesome. That's great. But the main practice for this exercise, not everything that you practice is going to end up being a perfect end result. The goal is practice and progress. So for this exercise, we're practicing color. And I go into a huge amount of deep dive lessons on color and color studies inside my course, The Art Within. So this is just a little snippet of some of those color theory and color study exercises inside the course. But I'm just gonna use a 3/4 inch Princeton Heritage wash brush. Any type of wash brush will do. If you're using something like the Mottler brush, you won't be able to do the smaller stripes. But basically what we're just gonna be painting is a background of stripes, wet and wet together. But the main goal or focus is color and how color interacts with other colors. So we're gonna try and take, I like to focus or hone in on one color that I really want to expand on and see all the different versions that I can create with this one color. So Dragon's Blood has just been a color that I'm really fascinated by recently. And I love adding a touch of black to it to make it even deeper and richer. So that's gonna be the color that we study. So I'm gonna start with a scrap sheet of paper that's hopefully mostly dry. And I'm gonna test out these colors. So first thing I like to do when I'm building a color palette from scratch is look at the color that I'm starting with. What are the main colors that I see? I see a lot of, especially when I spread this out and get it thinner, I see a lot of red and I also see a lot of brown. You don't have to get into the intricacies of the undertones and the blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there's a little purple in there, whatever. Just simplify it and get at least 2 colors. 2 colors is perfect. So I see red and brown, great. So I can take this down the brown direction or the red direction. Let's do brown for both and I'll show you these 2 different versions that we can go for that brown route. So if we're gonna expand or extract more colors from this color palette to make it cohesive, we're gonna start with that, the red and the brown. So we're just gonna highlight brown. So let's say we want this palette to be in a more muted, organic, earth tony vibe color palette. This one is gonna be a more contemporary vibe. So we can throw in some pastels, we can throw in some neon colors, we can throw in some random colors that you wouldn't see out in nature. So if we're going the earth tone route for this color palette, and we're going down brown for both of these for the next direction, then for this I'm gonna think of what's a good earthy brown. I can do like a sand color, I can do burnt umber with a little bit of black. We can test out both. I like to, kind of start playing with the different directions of this earthy tone brown that I can go in. Maybe I can add some orange to my burnt umber and black to see what that does to bring in a little bit of a hint of a different color, but not too intense of a jump. So we can put that next to it, but it's still feeling like not that big of a contrast, which is fine. You can have really subtle movements in your colors for your color palette. But let's say there's one other color I really know I want to start incorporating into this color palette. Let's say it's a like blue-green or something. Then I know I want to take that brown and I want to start kind of weaving it towards blue. And the way we do that is through yellow. So brown is got a lot of red in it, so we're gonna start adding yellow to our brown, like orange or straight up yellow, to start weaving in those greens to make it a really subtle, easy transition from this dragon's blood to wherever we go with our color palette. So we've got this kind of like golden brown. This was yellow and burnt umber, golden brown. And so now I can start really going into my greens, and it's gonna feel pretty subtle and natural looking because we're using natural, more earth tone colors. And we're keeping our base for each color, that brown, to keep it earth toned. So I've got sap green and my yellow brown mixture that I'm weaving into these to keep it cohesive. And exploring those greens, we can also do a lighter version of the greens and the lighter version of that yellow brown if we wanted to. And have so many obviously different options for our greens. And then we just keep expanding colors. Let's try out if we add blue to our green, maybe a touch of orange, like this smoky blue-green. I'm really liking where that grayish blue-green is going. So I'm gonna add more blue to it and some more black or brown. And I'll bring this down here. I love this like charcoal, creamy charcoal blue-gray with the greens. Right here is our color palette. And we can go a little bit further beyond that if we wanted to and do more red in Dragon's Blood to have a red, like a brick red. We could go a little bit more yellow in our greens to have a fiery, brighter green color. But overall, I would say this is kind of where I'd end up for a more muted tone using Dragon's Blood as my starting point. And then if I want to use Dragon Blood as my starting point and we go down the brown route, since we have red and brown, we're going down the brown route like we did for this color palette. How can we make this more modern, but still using brown? So I like to use white paint to make pastel colors or neon colors. Brown is kind of a hard one to make neon. So I'm gonna do like this creamy beige with yellow ochre, burnt umber, and white. And we're gonna have this also have a little bit more of a pink undertone to it too, to slightly shift into pink, so I can use a neon pink or something like that to pull off from the pink. Already love that. So let's grab a really vibrant bright pink so we can pull out the pink from that pastel, brownish pink. We've got primary red magenta, or opera rose is a similar color in a creamy consistency. And a nice vibrant pink. I want to create more loudness, more vibrancy with this color palette, so I'm not gonna have all of my colors be right next to each other in terms of shifting the color subtly. So I'm gonna go right into a bright creamy yellow, add some white to primary yellow and green gold. For this canary yellow, but it's a little bit more lime green. And we'll jump that in here. And from yellow to blue, we'll hop away from green, direct green, and we'll just do a blue that we're gonna add that cream to, the white paint to keep these two colors are most high in contrast, one being neon, one being dark. And there isn't one formula or one way to mix up a color palette by having this many neutrals or this many darks, this many lights. But you do want to have the main vibe or aesthetic of the color palette, you want that to be the majority of the colors. So the main vibe that I want is I just want it to feel different. I want it to feel more modern and more like bright. And so I have a lot of these creamy colors and just these two darker or brighter colors to really make those shine. And then maybe we'll do a slightly darker blue. So I'm gonna add Prussian blue to that creamy blue for that. I love this color palette. This is awesome. So for an abstract like stripes painting, that's all we're gonna practice. So I help break down that method a whole lot more inside my course, The Art Within. So if you wanna do more color studies and open your eyes to the world of color, that course breaks it down for you a lot. So all we're gonna do now is use this wash brush. Actually, I am gonna start with my modeler brush to cover a lot more area quicker. I'm going to start with my light blue. I might need to mix that up again because we're getting a little too type B over here with this mess. Start with a light blue. Wash in a big stripe. My water is super dirty, so this is not going to be the exact blue that I mixed up, but that's okay. We're going to work with it. It's a little bit more greenish, which is pretty. So I'm just going to do a big, wet, light, kind of coffee tea value of this pale blue green, bluish green. Then I'm going to take my wash brush and let's go ahead and grab our hero color, which is that dragon's blood. Really thick, creamy consistency so it doesn't bleed too much. We want it to bleed, but not like a crazy amount. And I'm gonna go right up on that top edge of my first stroke or wash. And I'm just gonna stripe that in. I already love what's happening to the top of this stripe and how it's bursting. You can also tilt your paper to help it bleed even more. And next I'm gonna go through my different colors that I have mapped out from my color palette and start just weaving them in together. I know I want to add in pops of my neon pink, but I want subtle breaks between each one of these rich colors. So I'm gonna put in another one of my lower tones. My muted soft yellow green is next. We can go back over stripes when necessary and grab this creamy blue again, stripe that in, overlap, and go back over it a couple times. And spread that down with just some water on my brush. So I'm going one stripe at a time, but then I'm gonna also overlap color on top of color because I want it to be really blendy. So let's go in again with some of this yellow and bring back that vibrant color. Love that pop of bright yellow. So let's add in a pop of pink, maybe right on top of this. Don't be afraid, let it happen. Now some darker blue. Darker creamy blue, maybe in between here with a thinner, just the top edge of the brush, and maybe here as well. Now let's weave back in this dragon's blood, but I'm going to do it on the very edge over here. Dragon's blood. They don't need to be perfect stripe shapes because they're blendy with one another. You just want to make sure that the outer edge that's about to get touched by another color is really wet. Otherwise they won't blend together. I want this to be darker. Okay. Do a wash of this pink first. That's nice. would make a fun fabric with all these bleeds. I can go back over this yellow to re-wet it and activate it so that it blends into this pink that I'm adding. If it's not blending like I want it, just grab the yellow again and overlap. Go back over it. Maybe we'll pop in some of that bright pink again here. And one more dragon's blood on top of this blue, but thinner. And on top of this. And that's it, really. You're just exploring color and practicing wet and wet technique, obviously, but the main goal with this exercise is color. So if you want deeper exercises and information on color studies and color palettes, then check out my course, The Art Within. So there you have it. There is my somewhat simplified color palette formula for building a color palette from scratch, from your ideas, from just taking risks and seeing what happens. There's a lot more to that I break down and simplify inside of my course, The Art Within. So if you want more knowledge around color theory, relationships, check that out. But it's also just a huge deep dive in art in general, how to develop your style as an artist, and then also the foundations of art, like sketching techniques, shading techniques, perspective, composition, color theory, all the things. And it's all in one spot, and it's just an amazing course. So I highly recommend checking out The Art Within. If you love this channel but you want more, go check it out. And then also check out my free ebook. It's 40 pages and it's called The Complete Beginner's Guide to Watercolor. We'll link to it below along with the course, so you can check that out, get your hands on that free ebook. It's got tons of information on supplies, techniques, wet and wet versus wet and dry, color theory, composition, and more as well. So check that out, and I'll see you in the next video.